Welcome to Lecture 11 on the topic of parenting and its implication for Christian counseling. Parenting is a global subject. Being a good parent is one of the most important and challenging things in any parent's life. In this lecture, I would like to talk about 6 areas of parenting. First, what is parenting? Some of the most common parenting challenges, the 3 parenting views, the 4 parenting styles, and at the end, I will discuss implications for counseling, followed by a brief discussion on keys for successful parenting. Let's discuss on what is parenting. Parenting is the process of promoting and supporting the physical, emotional, social, spiritual, and intellectual development of a child from infancy to childhood. Parenting is exciting, fun, sometimes challenging. In addition to providing the physical, emotional, spiritual, and the intellectual development of a child, parenting includes teaching, training, loving, disciplining, modeling, impressing, and talking to the child. Parenting across the world have similar aspirations and challenges. Because children's identity is forming, but still they are fluid, intelligence is growing, but risk-taking is still high. They are very focused on peers, but family is still important. Here, the rules without relationship leads to a form of rebellion. The 6 habits of effective parents have been well discussed in the literature, even from a secular point. The first one is develop and maintain respect for the child. Be interested and involved in them and in their life. Spend time learning what they like and value their opinions, interest, friends, music. Second, learn to listen to the children. Don't judge. Don't assume you really understand what's being said. Reflect back to the child your best guess of what they meant. Third, realize that you are a role model. Kids do what we do, not what we say. Be aware of value conflicts, cheating, lying. Try to be honest about your own challenges. Admit your mistakes when they happen. Fourth, focus on positives. Work to notice what your teens does well. Tell them, speak it out. Accept that change happens slowly. Recognize positive efforts in the right direction and encourages them, and tend towards recognition of behaviors rather than praise for character. Fifth one, be willing to discipline and set limits. Pick your own battles. Set limits based on important values, especially around faith and safety. Understand influences versus control. Be consistent once you have picked up a battle. Involve your teen in the process where everything is possible. And the 6th one is have confidence in yourself as a parent, which is tough sometimes. Mistakes are inevitable. Be willing to learn. Understand your own values. Give yourself a break. That the 6 habits of effective parenting, even from a secular side, matches with what the Bible says to a certain extent. It includes respect, listening, being a role model, be positive, discipline the children, and the self-confidence or faith. Children need most of the things that an adult need. such as love, respect, being a role model, guidance, a good listening ear, time to be involved in them and interested in them and in their world. Parents' influence on kids is tremendous because every aspect of life is observed or influenced by this child. Here's a famous quote. If a child lives with criticism, he learns to condemn. If a child lives with hostility, he learns to fight. If a child lives with ridicule, he learns to be shy. If a child lives with shame, he learns to feel guilty. If a child lives with tolerance, he learns to be patient. If a child lives with encouragement, he learns confidence. If a child lives with praise, he learns to appreciate. If a child lives with fairness, he learns justice. If a child lives with approval, he learns to like himself. If a child lives with acceptance and friendship, he learns to find love in this world. Thus, being an example to children is very critical because children learn what they live. There's a famous saying, you can con a con, you can fool a fool, but you can't kid a kid. Don't chance it, plan it. Thus, rules without relationship leads to rebellion. Rules don't work without proper relationship. What are the goals of parenting? The first and the foremost one is build responsibility in children's life. Second, develop courage. And third, develop cooperation. Let's look into the parent-child conflicts. Parent-child conflicts can occur for many reasons. When a conflict occurs, the entire family can be thrown into emotional turmoil. Parents' moral views or their life can be very different from the children's life. We have a microwave generation. They want it so quickly and instantly. Sometimes they say things which doesn't make sense because of lack of maturity. They may speak out, adults are hypocrites. Thus, it's a very challenging thing to deal with, especially with teens. It's very difficult. Parenting challenges are somewhat different depending on the age and age group of children. For example, the expectation of infants, toddlers are different from teens. Parents are mostly engaged in direct care or physical care when kids are small. Holding on to the faith and bringing them to church is always a challenging, especially in the current future. In the Western countries, a lot of young people are leaving the church, especially when they turn the age of 18. Another parenting challenge is the socio-cultural issues such as language barriers, generational issues, and socio-cultural integration issues. Parenting child conflicts is an ongoing thing. Even the marriage conflict with the parents can also create troubles. Abuse, separation, divorce, all this have a significant impact on parenting. Then media influence such as internet, social networking, music, what they hear, what they tune is having a tremendous impact on their life. In addition to this external challenges, peer pressure, school, college, workplace, and substance abuse even, and other related issues have a major impact as these children grow up in this country. Thus, parenting is a lifelong process, including education, taking care of their finding a partner, building a family, a job, health issues, and spirituality. Some of the other parenting challenges that demands counseling includes single parent issues, increasing child abuse, increasing issues with behavior problem or developmentally delayed children, children with challenges. Here are some of the major issues facing teens. This is well researched in the literature. Especially in the developed countries, suicide is a significant problem in many countries. In European countries, Canada, US, and even in the developing nations. Suicide is the third leading cause of death, especially in the age group of 10 to 14. And the second cause of death in the age group of 15 to 34. Another area is bullying. It's an ongoing pattern of harassment and abuse. And sometimes the children don't speak out. Phone addiction, hookup culture. Hookup culture is generally defined by its acceptance and encouragement of casual sexual encounters and non-personal sexual activities. And substance abuse. Many young people are experimenting with alcohol, tobacco, drugs, cigarettes, all kinds at an early age. Then violent video games, pornography. Young people are being desensitized to violence and sexual deviations due to playing violent video games. Young people socialize, hang out, communicate and share pictures on video. And that can have a tremendous impact on their life. Violence on TV, which occurs in most programs, including the news, especially prevalent in cartoons. Violence in the neighborhood and in the culture, all these have a larger impact on their development. The big one that is affecting a lot of young people is the pornographic materials, which is a billion-dollar business targeting on young people. Many young people have had exposure to pornography. The next section is about some of the common beliefs and views on parenting. There are widely different views prevalent on parenting. I have organized these views into three major views. Number one, traditional view, modern view, and a biblical view. We have been discussing this framework throughout the lectures of this course. The traditional view or the cultural view, I consider it as a parent's view. The second one, that is the modern view, is a Western liberal view, which I consider as the young people hold as they're growing up. The third one is biblical view, or a Judeo-Christian religious view, or a Christian view from a biblical point. Parents' view affect their parenting, leading them to either strict or balanced parenting, or a permissive or a neglected parents. Parents with traditional view will mostly hold a cultural view and a spiritual view. Here parents are trying to meet the community norms and expectations. Here the focus is on the family and also set family rules and norms. Use of physical or verbal discipline is common. And such parents demand immediate or strict enforcement of rules. Not much negotiation, but emphasis on conformity. Often parents will decide what is right or wrong for the child, even for the family. Modern parenting is built on a secular psychological view. For example, here the goal is responsibility, develop courage, develop cooperation, and good education. These are good values. But the modern education, where two parents are working, is impacted a lot to the modern parenting. It's an impact of this education, independent achievement, oriented towards a secular lifestyle, which encourages children to make decisions, learn from their mistakes, multicultural emphasis. Such parents believe that it is better for children to be in daycare, especially when they are toddlers, than at home to learn some social skills. And also it gives time and another life for those parents. But when you look from a Christian worldview, parenting is God's crucially important mission that God has delegated to parents because He wants to bless His people and accomplish His purpose through families. According to Christian view, children are God's unique blessings. Children are a gift from the Lord. Children are a reward from God. Thus, children are like sharp arrows in the various hands. Here, parents' life are extended through children to impact the world. Children are great instruments for God to share the good news, to bring many to the truth, and be a model citizen to impact this world. Thus, God has delegated this mission to parents to bless families and accomplish God's purpose through families. God's instruction to Israel is well described in the Old Testament. For example, in Deuteronomy chapter 10, you can find, "And now, O Israel, what does the Lord your God ask you? To fear the Lord, to walk in all His ways, to love Him, to serve the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and observe the Lord's commands and decrees that I am giving you today for your own good." Here, you can see 5 important aspects of family and parenting. First, fear the Lord, walk in His ways, love Him, serve Him wholeheartedly, follow His commands. It's amazing. The next session, I'd like to focus on an important aspects of parenting, that is parenting styles, have a tremendous impact on Christian counseling or secular counseling. Here's a famous quote from Pearl's book. "Some mothers are kissing mothers and some are scolding mothers, but it is love just the same, and most mothers kiss and scold together." Psychologist Diana Bormint developed the theory of parenting styles in 1960. Here, parenting style is defined by a balance of control or discipline and love or support. There's 2 parts to understand the theory of parenting. First is the controlling part of parenting. Second one is the supportive side or the unconditional love part. Parental control means the standards, the responsibilities, the consequence parents have for their children within the family, with their peers, and within the larger community. Parental support or response includes the extent to which parents intentionally foster the child's uniqueness, discipline, self-assertion, being connected, supportive, or accepting children's special needs and demands. The first type of parenting style is authoritarian parenting or tiger type parenting, giving orders. Authoritarian, my way is the highway. It's an autocratic, rigid rules, punishment, not much negotiation, pushing to the edge, micromanaging, and less forgiving, strict enforcement of discipline. Such parents have high control and low love to their children, and they demand instant obedience. Children from authoritarian families tend to be shy girls or hostile boys as they develop into adulthood. They may be drawn or apathetic, unmotivated, and incompetent as they grow up. They may develop low self-esteem as adults, more likely to be led by others. They are also called fighting parents. This is sometimes referred to as the aggressive style of parenting. This is a traditional type of parenting, especially in the immigrant generation as well as the traditional families. It's very visible. The second type of parenting style is authoritative parenting or dolphin parenting, which is more a democratic type or giving choices, which is more kind of a shared one, which is tough. Parents are firm but flexible, in charge but flexible, They are role models and stable in relationship. We can see rules with relationship. Such parents have high control and high love to the children. Here's a balance of freedom and responsibility. Children from authoritative families tend to be self-confident and independent as they grow up. Self-assertive, self-reliant. They become independently and friendly, motivated and competent. And authoritative parenting correlates with social competence. They are also called fellowshipping parents because there is a balance in demands and love. The authoritative style is considered the ideal parenting style and seems to produce children with high levels of self-confidence, who are socially responsible. Authoritative parents set clear expectations, high standards, use discipline based on reasoning, and encourage the children to make decisions based on what they learn even from their mistakes. Here, there is definitely they also warn and nurturing and treating the children with kindness, respect, and affection. The third type of parenting style is the neglectful parenting or monkey type parenting. In this category, there is little parenting happens or no parenting. These parents are passive and uninvolved, sometimes giving up the children, not involved in their day-to-day life. These parents have low control and low love to their children, low demands and low responsiveness. Children from uninvolved families tend to be unmotivated, indifferent as they grow up, sometimes destructive, detached, socially incompetent, little interaction between the parent and child. Socially incompetent when they grow up. These parents are called forsaking parents because they are almost absent or neglectful and distanced from the children's life. There is lack of emotional involvement and supervision, little control. This is a very dangerous style of parenting. And the last one is permissive parenting or jellyfish parenting. Anything goes there. It's giving in. In such families, what happens is children tend to be impulsive and they become undisciplined and immature. Kids are in control of parenting. Such parents are over-involved and protective with little control on their kids. And these parents have low control and high love to the children. In other words, low demands and high response. Indulgent and tolerant to anything. Children rule the homes. Parents were reluctant to set limits and they were overly focused on the children's feelings, at the same time neglecting the parents' life. Homes became a very child-centered place. This is referred to as permissive style of parenting. Such kids tend to be impulsive, dependent, undisciplined. And these parents are called fearful parents because they are scared to discipline or control these kids. Thus, we learned 4 types of parenting styles. First one, authoritative parenting or tiger parenting. Another word is fighting parents with high control and low love. Here, just children, when they grow up, the girls become shy and the boys become hostile. The second one is authoritative parenting or dolphin type parents or fellowshipping parents with high control and high love. Here, children tend to be independent and mature as they grow up. The third one is uninvolved or neglectful parenting, monkey type parenting or forsaking parents with low control and low love. Children tend to be unmotivated, socially incompetent. And the fourth one is permissive parenting or jellyfish parenting, in other words, fearful parents with their children. Low discipline and high love. Children tend to be impulsive, dependent, and undisciplined as they grow up. It's an interesting way to understand parents' style, even what would be the outcome in some cases. These are secular models, not biblical models, but there's a lot of facts and research has got into it, and especially for the counseling practice, This is a great model to understand. Now, I would like to discuss the implications for counseling. How to deal with children's behavior, especially when they are young and when they have tantrums. It's very difficult. These are certain tips which is being used by psychologists and as well child level psychologists. Ignore for some time. Give children some space. Create a diversion. Find out what's really frustrating the child. Sometimes go and hug the child. Offer food or suggest a little recreation. The child may be hungry because they can't speak out when they are small. Give incentive or reward them. Speak calmly, especially when they are out of control. Sometimes as adults we have to laugh it off. Well, there are times where we need to get out from that. Leave them there and let them play. Let them be all right after a few minutes. Parents must be aware about some of the dangerous consequences, especially when you are dealing or raising teens in this generation. There are dangerous consequences for certain behavior, certain lifestyle, especially exposure to drugs and alcohol, whether they are going through mental health issues, anxiety or depression, or they are hooked up to pornography. Some of the materials can be very harmful to their life. Here there are some questions which may help, especially when you deal with parents. How old a child should be when you first start to discuss issues such as alcohol, drugs, or sexuality? Well, parents do have different responses, especially when I ask these questions in the seminars, parenting seminars. I got a lot of responses from age 5 to age 14. But I would recommend age 13 because that's where a lot of biological changes, hormonal changes happens. You can talk at a lower basic version of all these things when they are young, but can have a more direct talk, a friendly talk when they turn 12 or 13, depends upon their maturity. Another question, how do you monitor teens' use of the internet? This is an ongoing challenge a lot of parents are going through. As a counselor, you may come across this question. Here is some of the responses I got from Indian parents. I don't give my child access to the internet. I keep the computer in a common area so I can be aware of their activity. I trust them totally and don't monitor at all. And another option is I let them have a computer in their room and occasionally look at their history folder. What is recommended by psychologists as well as parenting counselors is I set clear rules about where they can surf. Make it clear so that you can monitor their behavior and remove the privileges if they visit sites that you don't believe are safe. Because the goal of parenting is teaching what is right and wrong. It's not just a control. There needs to be some kind of education why they should not visit certain websites or certain how we can influence positively their behavior. Otherwise, when they are alone, when they grow up, they may move in their directions because they never discipline their life. Next question, how often should parents talk to their teens to find out how they are feeling? What might be going on with them? Discuss important issues facing young people. Here also, the responses of some of the parents include proactively ask them questions and encourage conversations almost every day. That will be too much. Never ask them. That's a neglectful parenting. Wait for them to come to you, and if they don't ask, you may ask them questions at least on a monthly basis. Not that great. What is recommended is proactively ask them questions maybe once or twice a week. You don't want to bother them too much, but at the same time, you don't want to ignore them. This is a friendly talk. At the same time, you are part of their life to help them, that you are concerned about their life. The next question or the next section I would like to focus is keys for successful or great parenting. We need a solid foundation to build a strong family. The biblical teachings provide a solid foundation for building a strong family. In the Old Testament, God gives specific commands and decrees to the families, especially in the Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 1 to 3. Here, these are the commands, decrees, and the laws of God directed to teach you to observe in the land that you are crossing the Jordan to possess, so that you and your children and their children after them may fear the Lord your God, as long as you live by keeping all his decrees and commands that I give you. This is amazing. The commands that is given to the people of Israel in the Old Testament is very relevant today. That developing godly fear, reverence, that has a tremendous impact on our life, our generation. Even in Psalm 103, God's promises given to generations, those who obey his commands. But from everlasting to everlasting, the Lord's love is with those who fear him, and his righteousness with their children's children, with those who keep his covenant and remember to obey his precepts. Thus, there is a tremendous blessing when you hold on the promises of God, especially when we walk in obedience to God's plan and purpose. In the New Testament, the teachings of the Lord Jesus Christ provides a solid foundation for building a strong family. The great parable, the wise and the foolish builder, provides a clear message, a compelling message for building a strong family, especially the house upon a rock. Jesus said, "Therefore everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock. The rain came down and streams rose. The winds blew and beat against that house, yet it did not fall, because it had its foundation on the rock." Look at the foolish builder, the house that's built on the sand. But everyone who hears these words of mine and does not, underline the word does not, put them into practice is like a foolish man who built his house on sand. The rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against the house, and it fell with a great crash. The second one, the clear direction. C.S. Lewis said, when a ship goes to the deep sea, the captain should have clear direction. Here, we need to know where we are going as a family. What's the purpose of our life? Many parents, many people lack purpose and meaning in life. From a secular point, some of the goals of parenting are build responsibility, the capacity to make choices and accept the consequence of them, or develop courage, the capacity to positive risk within the good value system, and develop cooperation, that's a capacity to work well with other people while maintaining your own values. Without purpose, life has no meaning. Finding your purpose begins with God. Everything God started in him and finds his purpose from the Lord. But most people lack purpose and meaning because they do not have the proper relationship with God who made them. God has determined our purpose because we are God's workmanship, created in Christ to do good works, which God has prepared in advance for us. Again, when you look at Jesus' life, even in his development, when he was young, you read from Luke chapter 2, verse 52. And Jesus increased in wisdom and stature and in favor with God and man. The Bible gives guidance in all areas of life. Parenting is no different. There are several helpful and important verses in the Bible. For example, Matthew chapter 18, verse 14. In the same way, your Father in heaven does not want any of these children to be lost. And the third key here is biblical worldview. Christian worldview is your mental and spiritual lens through which parents interpret reality. It's parents' best effort to think like Jesus. Teaching discipleship process to children. These are very critical. It is also parents' best effort to think like Jesus and teaching discipleship process to children. The fourth key is effective communication. We need to communicate clearly to our children. The components of any communication or message includes words comprises of 7%. The tone of our communication is 38%. And the non-verbal communication is 55%. When you look at positive communication, children need to see, hear, experience love and appreciation. At the same time, they need encouragement and discipline and instruction. Therefore, parents' heart, character, and love is critical in the communication process. For example, we have to speak it out. I love you. I am proud of you. You are good. Thus, affirming encouragement, life instruction, becoming a role model, and one-on-one times relationship and time is critical for this communication process. At the same time, poor communication leads to major parent-child conflicts, sending vague messages, thinking parents understand when we do not understand, not paying attention, hurting or teasing children on purpose, acting in ways that don't match parents' words. Sometimes as parents themselves deny their feelings. When children ask questions, they may respond, no big deal, nothing going on, I'm fine, leave me alone. These are negative type of communication. Sometimes denying children's feelings. When children crying, stop that crying. So what's the big deal anyway? Don't be ridiculous. These are examples of negative communication. What we need is good communication patterns. Say exactly what you mean. Focus on behavior rather than personality. Ask questions when we do not know fully what they are communicating. Focus on what the child is saying. Try to understand what the child is feeling. Take time out to listen well. When there is a conflict, we need to fight fairly. In his book, Secrets of Strong Families, Dr. Nick Stinnett presents 6 secrets of what makes a strong family. The first one is strong families, they are committed to one another within the family. Spending time together. Having good family communications or family prayer, coming together to the dinner table, going together for vacation, spending time together, debating things, learning from one another, even from the news, from events that's going around them, supporting one another in times of crisis, express appreciation to each other, have a spiritual commitment, going to church, praying together, or when a difficulty hits, they are able to solve the problems in a difficult time or a crisis. Again, the biblical discipline or the communication part is very important. The Bible gives specific instruction in that matter. Teach the child the right way to go. Training is working with the child, help him or her to learn. And the third one is correction, change the behavior or response when they are not following or when they are wrong. This is a great verse for parenting. Train up a child in the way he should go. Even when he is old, he will not depart from it. There is another admonition given to parents. Fathers, do not provoke your children to anger, but bring them in the discipline and instruction of the Lord. Thus, training and discipline is a key part in parenting. Bring them in the training and instruction. The whole training and education of children to cultivate their minds and morals. That is very important in the process of parenting for a successful family. Whatever cultivates the soul, especially to correct mistakes and curb passions, which is another key in this communication process. When we read Hebrews chapter 12, verse 5 to 13, you can get some principles of discipline. God is treating us his children, because for what children are not disciplined by their father? Thus, discipline is part of the loving, caring process. Here we can learn few important principles of discipline. Here, a positive discipline motivates the child in the right direction, shows that the child is yours. It's good for the child, not for the parent. Develop godly qualities in the child. It's not a joyful occasion, but it yields harvest of righteousness and right behavior in due time. Here also I like to mention some of the ways fathers, mothers sometimes exasperate children when they are angry, or when children don't follow the rules. Unclear expectations, demands beyond their ability, unexpected anger, undue severity, partiality, inconsistent discipline, continual fault fighting, ridiculing them as persons, high control, very authoritative and low on praise, cursing them. You are just like your father. Why can't you be more like me? These are sometimes spoken out of control or out of anger. There needs to be a reconciliation even if something happens before the end of the day. The fifth key is an unconditional love. In his book, 5 Love Languages, Gary Chapman, a Christian psychologist, summarizes the 5 love languages that children can relate with. First, words of affirmation. Second, acts of service. Third, receiving gifts. Fourth, quality time. 5, physical touch. Thus, the way in which parents listen to each other, speak to each other, discipline children, and involving in their lives of children is very critical, especially in the training and discipline. Parents must accept these children as they are. They may have handicaps, challenges, rebellious behavior, but it is the responsibility of the parents to know that the children are valuable, care when they are hurt, desire only what is best for them, and finally erase all offenses which happened in the past. This is the largest Harvard research for almost 75 years to find the secret of happiness in life. One of the major conclusions of the study was childhood relationships matter a lot. Thus, parents as well as children need to work together in this process of building warm relationships. Parents must accept children as they are, believe they are valuable, and always desire the best for them. And the last key I would like to mention here is the influential parenting, the 6 A's to parenting. It also built on the 2 factors, limits and love. Limits include accountability and authority. Here the love include acceptance, appreciation, affection, and availability. There may be teachable moments where we can use ways to impact your influence on these children for a lifelong development. I will conclude with a key verse from the Old Testament. God will turn the hearts of the fathers to their children, and the hearts of the children to their fathers. Else I will come and strike the land with a curse. Thus there is a blessing that is given, that God himself will turn the hearts of fathers and the children to come together, and he will do it. We need to believe it. In summary, we learned few important aspects of great parenting. First, having a solid foundation, clear direction, biblical worldview, effective communication, unconditional love, and influential leadership. Thank you. God bless.